Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. Growth and change. Two things that are essentially inevitable in each and every single one of our lives, whether we like it or not. The only difference is that some people tend to be self-aware of such things. Maybe they strive for more growth and more change in their lives. And maybe there's some people that are honestly content and perfectly fine with it happening in the background. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Because recently, there has been this conversation that I've been having with people that I've been coming across, mainly about growth. And I mean, just growth and change go together hand in hand, because you hope that you grow, and then because of that growth, you change. You would hope. But the funny thing is that even though I come across these people and have these conversations, sometimes it is not the most in-your-face helpful thing, as it seems. So, for instance, there was a woman who I was helping out for some time. And, you know, she'd always put herself in terrible relationships. Well, after coming to me, her and I started discussing it. And for the most part, I let people talk. Tell me your story, right? At the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to help you figure out what you should do. That's it. That's all that I am. More like a soundboard, if anything. So within her telling me about her past and, you know, the guys that she dates and what ends up happening, there's a pattern that emerges. And this pattern shows that she ends up dating, more or less, people that are narcissistic for the most part. Now, I don't know them, so I don't know if they're actually narcissists, like clinically speaking, but they tend to have a lot of narcissistic tendencies, especially from the stories that she tells me. So digging deeper, you know, I ask, like, how are these guys treating you? What's it like, at least from the beginning to the middle to the end? Like, where does it change? What happens? Is it something that you do? Is it something that they do? And what we've come to the conclusion is that the reason that she ends up dating these guys is mainly because they love bomb her. Now, we all know that love bombing is like the numero uno trait of narcissists, and that's fine. But it's, why is the love bombing working on her specifically? Now, going again through her past and talking about all her life and, you know, the relationships that she's had, she was in a marriage for a long time. She essentially married her high school sweetheart of sorts, and he didn't make her feel seen or heard, and he belittled her a lot, and he made fun of her, verbally abusing her. And I've said it before, I got to stop saying that too. And I got to stop saying, you know, because I do it way too often. I digress. So she's in this marriage, and her ex-husband belittles her, verbally abuses her. And like I've said before, if you hear something enough, you're just going to start to believe it. And see, like, that's the problem, because this is not only coming from, you know, not just a friend or a family member. This is somebody you chose to spend the rest of your life with, somebody that you chose to love. So their words are going to be a little bit more powerful than other people's words, because you aren't just placed in life with this person. You chose to be there. You chose to marry them. And after hearing, you know, verbal abuse for such a long period of time, she started to believe it, that she wasn't good enough, that her opinions don't matter, that, you know, she wasn't beautiful enough, or her sense of style wasn't, you know, good enough for him. And so when she comes across these other guys who happen to be narcissists, allegedly, they love bomb her. And within this love bombing, she starts to feel seen. She starts to feel heard. She starts to feel valued. She's getting this like false sense of crap. What's the word? Why do I keep forgetting words? We're going to skip it and we'll come back to it. So she's getting all these feelings, even though it's completely silly, because like, let's be honest, you know someone for 5 minutes, them saying that you are like the greatest person in the whole universe and I have no idea how I lived my life without you until this point. It's a ridiculous thought. I mean, just on the surface of things, even if it was love at first sight, right? He has no idea how she is when she's on her period, and I don't give a shit what anybody says, okay? You know, some women don't change a lot, some women do. And you don't know it until you've experienced it. So how can you say all these things when you haven't even experienced like the basic changes in her mood, depending on what time of the month it is? And I don't care if you get mad at me, it's a fact, it happens, okay? Okay. Anyways, moving on. Validation. That was the word. These guys are validating her, and it's like a false sense of validation because there's no context. There's no meat behind it, right? It's, I talked to you for a few minutes. I've seen some pictures of you. I think you're attractive, and boom, you're the greatest thing in the whole world. And she falls for it time and time again. So within this conversation her and I are having, she's starting to learn about herself, right? She's starting to grow, so to speak. But funny enough, not even a few months later, she ends up dating this guy, and he so happens to be just like every other guy that she dates. And even when her and I sit down and start talking about it again, you know, she's telling me all these things about this guy, and she's happy to tell me these things. Oh my God, he thinks I'm like so wonderful. I'm like the greatest thing in the whole world. And it's like, you do realize you were telling me word for word how he's love bombing you, and you're still not realizing it. Even though like with a couple of months ago, it's like you hit this revelation in your life and you're like, oh my God, this is why I keep putting myself in bad relationships. It's almost like giving a kid a practice test and that kid getting 100% on that practice test because, you know, you went through it with this kid. And then when it's time to give the kid the real test, he scores 0. And then you're just there scratching your head wondering why did this happen? Why is it like this? This doesn't make sense whatsoever. Anyways, this is my point when it comes to growth and change, right? Because she may have grown in terms of understanding why she's putting herself in these terrible relationships, but she's absolutely doing nothing about it. You know, it's like, hey, great, I know this information, but you know, reading it in a book or talking about it with somebody else is completely irrelevant when it comes to, you know, the real life experience of things and putting these things into practice. Does she realize she's being love bombed? Because when I was talking to her, it didn't seem that way. And it's like, you do understand that there's no way that he can know all this stuff about you so soon or have these feelings about you so soon. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And that's when it clicked for her. And she's like, oh, wait a minute. You're right. I fell for it again, didn't I? And then it's like, yeah, I think you did. I mean, but this is for you to like decide and figure out and like reflect on. She ended up staying with this guy for some time, and he ended up being another narcissist and taking advantage of her and essentially, you know, doing all the things narcissists do to people. And then it ended badly, because it always does with a narcissist. And to this day, she still, I don't think, hasn't learned. You know, we will see when the next guy comes around, because who knows when that will be. But this is my point, that just because you think you've grown, it's also about implementing the things you've learned into your life for the future, for the next time things happen. Okay? This is what growth truly is. It's you looking back, you reflecting on your life. And I'm speaking more specifically when it comes to like dating and relationships, so that you're not making the same mistakes. It's you reflecting, and it's, in her case, it was the types of guys that she was dating. In your case, it might be, you know, the types of guys you're dating. Maybe it's the way that you act in certain situations with people. Maybe it's the, you know, trust issues you might have that you think you've solved, but really haven't. Because the funny thing is time and time again, as I come across women for my own personal dating life, and I talk to them, and when we start into getting into topics a little bit deeper, I end up finding out that they're not over their ex yet, or, you know, they're doing this because they need an ego boost, or, and I mentioned some of these things last week. So what are this idea of growth and change? Like, what is it truly? Because it's a buzzword. It's on so many people's profiles. And at the end of the day, it almost like it means nothing. So I ask you out there, you know, what are you reflecting on when it comes to your past relationships? What have you learned? And are you implementing these things into your life? Now, this is like one side of this, you know, dice, so to speak, because there's obviously so many different sides to life and so many different ideas and visions when it comes to this stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a girl that I matched with and came across. We didn't even end up going out on a date, and I'll tell you why. So, you know, we matched and started talking, and obviously, you know, talking about what we do. And I don't mind sharing that I do this, the podcast, obviously, you know, trying to promote myself, the podcast, the dating and relationship coach, as well as the self-help books, and my main business being in fashion. Anyways, so right away, you know, she wanted to start talking about growth and change and getting deeper into things. And it's like, okay, yeah, I love this conversation. You know, I mean, I've essentially made it a big part of my life here, right? And as we're talking, she starts going into like next level shit, like even shit that's beyond me, you know, talking about the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension and the sixth dimension and the seventh dimension, and trying to reach these dimensions, mentally speaking. And I mean, I've like toyed with these sorts of ideas in like my own research and my own thinking, but this isn't, you know, something that is on the forefront for me. Even like when I'm helping people, everything that I do is extremely surface level compared to this, going, you know, dimensions deep into growth and change and types of like ways of thinking. And this is essentially where the whole idea of her and I ever dating or anything was to happen. This is where it all came to an end, because she's essentially starting to preach to me that every single person needs to be doing this. And I did the cardinal mistake of asking why. Why? And her answer was, oh, you know, because people need to open up their eyes and they need to see the world as it really is, and blah, blah, blah this and blah, blah, blah that, and people are sheep. And it's like saying these things, and I don't even know if she even knows what she means by all of this, because I'm getting extremely confused. You know, people need to open up their eyes to what? To the seventh dimension of what? For what reason, right? Because when you peel back all these layers, what is even the point of living? What's the point of life at the end of the day, right? Each and every single one of us is going to have a different answer for this. Some people want to change the world with an invention. Other people want to, you know, have a family and procreate. You know, some people are out there and they want to serve their fellow man, you know, be a doctor or a nurse. Some people want to exude their creative energy and create art, or, you know, woodworking or anything along those lines. You know, some people want to build, some people want to fix, and every single person on this planet is going to have a different idea of what it means to them. But I think you can really boil it down to being happy. You want to live a happy life, whichever way that means for you. And at least for me, living a life with love. And there's even like that Harvard study I've mentioned before, where if people get married and live in a loving marriage, they tend to live longer. So love, you know, obviously has a big role in our lives. So I think that if people are living a loving and happy life, then, you know, what difference does it make on what dimension they're thinking or seeing? And the funny thing is I said this shit to this girl, and it literally, like, I can almost feel her anger through the phone, because I didn't agree with her and I challenged her way of thinking. And I never said that her way of thinking was wrong by any means and by any stretch of the imagination. All I said is, why is that relevant for everybody on this planet? Why does everybody need to grow and change to your idea or your level? Right? Who are you to say this? What about Tom? You know, when Tom's living a wonderful life, he has a good job, he enjoys his coworkers, he wakes up with a smile, he goes to work, he comes home with a smile, he loves his family. Why does Tom need to be on the 7th dimension of thinking? Tom doesn't. That's the thing. You know, if it's something that works for you, then so be it. It works for you. There's no need for you to come here and, you know, tell Tom, like, Tom, listen, you are living a wonderful life. You have a loving family, you have a good job, you enjoy life, you're happy. But let me tell you this, Tom, you shouldn't be happy because there is a 4th and a 5th and a 6th dimension of thinking. And because you don't know these things, you should not be happy. You should be striving to reach this growth. And then Tom's going to look at you and be like, are you fucking serious? No, I don't need any of this shit. You know, I'm happy. I'm happy where I am. I have what I need. I don't need any more. I'm good. I'm happy. And that's it at the end of the day. You know, it's like the same thing with religion and how there's people out there that have a belief, you know, they go to church or temple or wherever their house of prayer or God is, and they live their life and they're perfectly satisfied with it. And then there's the other people that will come to you and say, hey, your religion is the wrong religion. My religion's the right religion. You need to change and join my side of things. And it's like, no, they don't. They don't. Because if you're happy with your life and you're striving to make your life happy for yourself, that's all that matters. And see, like, this is where the whole thing with growth and change really take place. Because although we are always growing and changing, all of us, every single one of us. I mean, here's another example for you. You know, you like boiled eggs. And then you realize that if you boil an egg for 6 minutes on the dot, take it out, put it into a bath of ice water to stop the cooking, then you have literally the perfect medium boiled egg where the whites are set and the yolk is creamy and delicious. That's the way I like my boiled eggs, especially with ramen. Delicious. Anyways, and if you boil that egg for 7 minutes, for 8 minutes, even for 6 minutes, take it out, but don't put it in the ice bath, you're going to realize that you don't have that creamy center, golden and deliciousness yolk of that egg. That's growth. That's learning. Because now you're going to be like, hey, this is the way I like my eggs. This is the way I'm going to cook it from now on. That's growth. You are learning, right? And that happens for each and every one of us, whether we like it or not. But it could happen in the background where we have a happy life and we're content with everything. Chances are you're not listening to this podcast, but if you are, congratulations. I'm very happy for you. Or we have to be more self-aware. We have to understand that we need to reflect. We need to process everything that's happened to us. We need to figure out why things are happening to us, right? And I mean, there's even that, there's like, you know, sayings and everything about, you know, if you date 5 people and the same thing happens with all the 5 people, is it really those 5 people or is it you? Like, which one's the problem now? Because the same thing continuously happens. Is it you or is it the 5 people? Did you just get so lucky that you met 5 of the same people? Because here's the funny thing. It's possible, especially if you have a type, because you keep dating the same type of person. But at the same time, could it be you? And these are the things that you need to like sit down and reflect and look back on and say, hey, wait a minute. Is there something that I can do to change this outcome? Whether it's me or them. Because the funny thing is, even if it's them, it's still you because you're the one that's choosing them, right? So, and here's another little story. So talking with this guy, in going again through his past relationships and the type of girls that he attracts or is attracted to and lets in his life. And we break it down and we sort of figure out, okay, like maybe there was this type of woman that you need to stay away from. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. And he figures it out for himself. He meets another girl. Oh, before he meets another girl, he says to me, listen, I want you to sort of, help me be accountable. I want you to sort of be like my guardian angel. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to like follow you around and shit. But if you want me to meet the people that you're dating, like closer to the beginning than when things get serious, yeah, absolutely. And I can give you my feedback. No problem. So I meet girl he's dating. And for those of you that are listening and not watching, I am shaking my head because the girl that he ends up dating is literally cookie cutter of all the other girls that he's dated, similar with the woman from the beginning of this episode. And I say to him, hey, listen, you told me you want me to help you be accountable. Well, this is me helping you be accountable because as it seems, I don't know her. I only know her from, the 5-10 minutes that I saw her and got to talk to her. But from what it seems, you're putting yourself back into the same pattern. And since you asked me to speak up, I'm speaking up. But what you decide to do with this information is completely up to you, 100%. So, and he got mad at me. He asked me for this, but then he got mad at me. Oh, what do you know? She's not like the other one. She's different, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. I'm just the one that you told to check in. So I'm checking in. Here we are. Right. Lo and behold, she was exactly the same like the other girls because he likes to date a specific type of woman. And it just turns out that he gets taken by them. Right. It is what it is. That's life. But yeah, this is the thing. If you see that you have a problem, specifically like in this type of situation where you might be dating the same type of person over and over again, maybe you have a friend or a family member that you trust that you can, employ to help you stay accountable, like this guy did with me. The difference is that you, unlike this guy, when someone comes to you and says, hey, you told me that you want me to help you be accountable, here I am, you don't get mad and you take what they're saying seriously. And at least if you think they're wrong, take a few minutes and reflect on all the things that have happened, like within that short period of time with this new person. Because this is part of like growing. This is the part of change. You have to actively do it. And unfortunately, as human beings, we hate change. Despite how inevitable it is, we hate change. And we do everything sometimes to fight against it. I mean, even look at the whole state of dating itself and how men are changing, right? Men are becoming more in touch with their feelings. And as men become more in touch with their feelings, more and more women are saying, no. I want the masculine man. I want the way things used to be. I don't want this shit anymore. And it's like, but this is what you asked for originally, because a lot of women say, oh, I wish I had a man that was in touch with his feelings and would talk to me about this stuff. And then now that you have it, you don't want it anymore. And you're like pushing guys away. But I think honestly, there is like a little bit of a, male revolution when it comes to this, and how men are finally, taking their mental health seriously and being in touch with their own feelings with themselves at the very least, so that they can help process this shit instead of burying shit down to eventually one day it comes out in a big mess. Those are my thoughts. Nonetheless, there are a lot of people out there that fight change. And I'm going to tell you that if you are one of those people, stop, look at your life. Every single day of your life is change. It is you growing older, growing fatter, growing fitter, growing smarter. There's always some form of growth and change in our lives at every single moment. Even right now, as we speak, you are listening to me talk to you. I hope that you're gaining something from this. And if you are, that's part of growth. That is part of change. That is why I hope you're listening to me. You know, I need to stop saying, Jesus. I'm sorry, I completely took myself off that thought process and that train. But nonetheless, this is what it comes down to. And here's the thing: if you are happy with your life and you're content, and change and growth is sort of in the background, and they happen as they happen, and they're not necessarily like in your face, then just keep doing what you're doing. Keep living life the way you want to live life. And that's it. And if you happen to be a single person who's happy, and I always say this, you should be happy if you are a single person who wants to date, because you cannot rely on someone else to provide you with happiness. And you're content, and you don't need, to have bullshit in your life. Then don't have bullshit in your life. Choose happiness. Choose what's good for you. Choose what you want. And don't become someone else's idea of what they want you to be. So I think that's pretty much it. Back to my shorter-ish podcasts. I thank you so very, very much for listening. If you have any question or comments for me, or you just want to talk to me personally, not so much for this form, feel free, go to my website. That's joeyfrancis.com, joeyfrances.com. And there you can either see what services I offer. You can also send me a message, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And if you scroll even further down, you can buy my self-help books, which if you're somebody who's A, not happy, and B, looking to grow and change, then I strongly recommend my 2 books, Fate is Bullshit, The Logical Guide to Happiness, because you can still believe in fate, but maybe looking at the logic side of things, it can lead you towards happiness. And The Logic of Me, a guided journal for self-discovery, a guided journal for self-discovery to help you, provided you are completely 100% honest with yourself, but it'll help you find out the things that are important to you, find out where you want to go in life, find out what you want to learn, find out what's not that important to you, and find out the direction and path you should be on. So I strongly recommend those 2 books for you if you are on a journey of growth and change. And also remember that just because you are doesn't mean everybody else is. Doesn't mean everybody else has to, right? Each and every single one of us are on our own journey. And that includes growth. That includes change. Oh, I can't believe I forgot this. This was like the whole idea of this STAM episode, and it completely slipped my mind because I was too busy telling stories. When we meet someone, right? And if we've listened to my past episodes, I hope you're still listening and haven't been like, okay, he's ending the episode, I'm going to pause it, I'm going to shut it down. When we meet someone in life, right? Now, if you've listened to my past episodes, what are you ready for? What do you want? What don't you want? How you want to be treated? Those things that I literally try to hammer inside your head every time. But let's imagine you find someone who has the same idea of what you both want, who has the things you're looking for, who doesn't have the things you're not looking for, and who is going to treat you the way you want to be treated. And you have all these things and you think, hey, that's it. Close the book. Stick a fork in my ass. I am done. let's make a life out of this, sayonara. There's another big part to all of this, and that is growth. Because when it comes to a relationship, two people, you either grow together or you grow apart. And it's going to be one of those two things. In fact, if you ask a bunch of people who got married young and are divorced, there's a whole bunch of them that there is no bad reason to why these two people separated and got divorced. The guy didn't do anything bad. The woman didn't do anything bad. But the answer is they ended up growing apart. Now, a lot of people might think that's a bullshit excuse. That's your prerogative if you do. But it is very much the truth. Because each and every one of us have an idea of what we want our futures to look like, even if it's with somebody else. And I strongly suggest that if you are getting serious with someone, that you have this conversation with them about your future, about your growth together, about change, and what your life will look like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Because it's going to be different. And it might be different. It might not be so different. Maybe it's very similar. And then you'll have a better understanding of, hey, wait a minute, this might actually work down the line. Or you might think to yourself, fuck, this really sucks. I found somebody who has all the things I'm looking for. It makes me feel great. But then, they see the future different than I do. And then what? You have obviously a choice. Are you going to sort of compromise both of your futures to make like one, common ground future? Do you go your separate ways? Or is one person going to fold over the other? And this is a very important thing because, like I said, a lot of people in the past got married young, end up getting divorced, not because someone was being bad or malicious, but because they just grew apart. And I don't know about you, if you haven't experienced it, do you want to experience that? Because I don't think you do. I don't think any of us want to experience that, where we find love and then essentially we just watch as that love goes farther and farther away as every day passes. That sounds really sad. So, most importantly, when you start dating someone, aside from your own personal growth, aside from how your life is changing, make sure that you and your potential partner have a conversation about what growth and change looks like for the two of you for the future. And I say this because, especially with, being a little bit older, and, the majority of you guys being a little bit older, there is some of you out there that, for instance, want to have a family because you haven't had that opportunity yet. And I literally come across women who are in their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, who still have the idea that they're going to have a child. Now, with medicine, modern medicine, it is very easily done. They say that, the odds of things going wrong obviously increase. But nonetheless, it's happening all the time. I literally heard a story from someone that a 48-year-old woman was pregnant and having a child. So, you know what I mean? If you're still having your monthly friend, then you can still get pregnant. That's just basic, like, what is it? Like grade 6 biology class? 7 maybe? I don't know. Nonetheless, is this something you want in the future? Because someone that may have not done it is somewhat of a rarity. The majority of people that are our age and single are usually those who have come out of something, divorced, maybe or maybe not have kids already. But nonetheless, they usually have decided whether they want to or not. And if you happen to be someone who wants to have kids and are in their late 30s, early 40s, and you're dating someone of a similar age or older, you're going to need to have that conversation with them because they might have already kids. They might have decided they don't want kids anymore. And essentially, right then and there, the relationship's over before it even started. And this is, like, again, the whole point of why it's so important that Yeah, that light. I know I'm like ADD sometimes. It is so important that you have these conversations with these people about what your future is going to look like, because again, it could be over within 5 minutes. You know, you find out that someone has all the things you're looking for, all the things you don't want, you know, wants the same thing as you, wants a future, treats you right, whatever the case is. They want kids, you don't. Done and done. And for me, you know, talking to women that have kids already and are dating, it's like, no, baby factory is closed. It's been closed for quite some time. There's no shot. And then you hear stories about them dating guys who have never had kids and want them. And then the guy's like, no, I think it's okay. It's fine. I understand. You know, you're done having kids because you already have kids. That's fine. And then 3 months in or 4 months in or 5 months in, they're like, I want you to be the mother of my child. And now these women are in predicaments because it's like, wait a minute. No. You told me that you were okay with the fact the baby factory is closed. No, it's a hard no. There's no compromise on this. It's just a no. Been there, done that. It's over. It's not happening. And if you were one of those people that literally want kids, then I suggest you put that at the top of your list when you're talking to someone and getting to know them, because these are very important conversations that you need to have to make sure that it's someone that you want. Because again, we're talking about future growth, and obviously this is a future thing. And even that list that, you know, write down all the things you want in another person, your future should be on that list, the things that you're thinking about in the future. And you should have these conversations with that person about growth. Anyways, I'm just repeating myself over and over again. So on that note, for real this time, thank you so much for listening to me. I honestly greatly appreciated it. If there is a question that you have for me, or if you're interested in purchasing my books, that's including ebook, audiobook, the whole 9 yards, go to joeyfrancis.com. That's joeyfrances.com. Again, thank you so much for listening to me. And this week, I'm just going to say to you, be self-aware and apply the things that you've learned. And that is true growth. Until next time.